Hey everybody, this is Papa T and the Moose. Come back at you with some sports announcements. Today
What
we
is
are
up?
we are recognizing we're still mourning the loss of Kobe. So we're repping the Lakers and some Olympic Kobe pride. It's gonna be missed for a long time. So since
Ain't that the truth?
we're in our self-imposed quarantines, so we couldn't be at the office with our bobbleheads. So we thought we'd wear some Kobe jerseys. Oh, touch my face. That's not good.
You
Coronavirus gonna
scoundrel.
spread.
You
Um,
scoundrel.
so today is March 18th, and that is the start of NFL free agency. So Christian, tell us what is going on with Tom Brady, and actually not Christian, the Moose. Tell us what's going on with
Don't
Tom
you dare
Brady.
use
Tell
my,
me your
my
thoughts about
given
it.
name. It's crazy, man. I never would have thought that he would go to Tampa Bay just because they sucked for so long. But it's the kind of thing where like once it started getting announced, you start looking at it, and they've got a lot of potential to be really good next year. You and I were talking about it earlier, but I mean last year their defense was like top 5, and they had 2 Pro Bowl receivers. And I was watching ESPN earlier today, and apparently they had like 5 or 6 games where they lost by like one score or less. And in those 5 games, Jameis Winston had 20 interceptions.
That's what I was just gonna say. So you're telling me if you took away his 573 interceptions last season,
Yeah.
they're a
So
real
I
good
mean,
team.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, Tom Brady last year, you could make a case that he was like top 10, top 15 quarterback last year with absolutely nobody. Like you can make a case that New England has the worst weapons in the league, like as far as receivers or running backs go. And so he was still like arguably top 15. So you take him and give him what could arguably be the best weapons in the league by the time free agency is over. You look at Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and we know Antonio Brown wants to play wherever Tom Brady goes, and we know Tampa Bay has the cap space to do that.
If
So
he can
there's
keep himself out of trouble,
yeah,
Antonio Brown can go more than one game without getting kicked out of the league.
yeah. There's a lot outside of Antonio Brown's control at this point, whether or not he's going to be able to play. But it's going to be really interesting. There's a real scenario next year where they have a top 5 defense. They have Tom Brady, and his weapons are Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. And then, I mean, they could either draft Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, who was a Heisman candidate for a lot of this past year and rushed over 2,000 yards out of Wisconsin, or they would still have enough to sign somebody like what's his name, Melvin Gordon out of LA.
Yeah,
Signing
they've
away
got
from the
quite a bit of
Chargers.
cap
So I
space.
mean, so it'll be really interesting to see. I think I mean I think it was also a smart move to go out of the AFC because he's not going to have to play. Because if he had gone to the Chargers, which I think was the other team he was thinking about, or that a lot of people were assuming he was
That would
thinking
have made
about,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, he would have had to face the Chiefs twice a year, and to get through the playoffs, to get to the Super Bowl, he would have to play the Chiefs. He'd have to play the Ravens. I mean, I just really feel like the AFC is the varsity of the NFL,
Yeah.
and the NFC is the junior varsity. So you look at the NFC, and there's not really anybody in the NFC that I can look at definitively and say the Buccaneers with Tom Brady and whoever they get in free agency are not going to have a chance next year against them. So
Right.
it's going to be really interesting
Yeah.
to see what happens for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird to see him not on the Patriots because that's, I mean, what, 20 years it's been, and I mean, me and the Moose have been talking for weeks about this, but my thought going into all this was just I just don't see how it makes sense for him to go anywhere else because he has such a legacy already in New
Yeah.
England, and like he has literally nothing else to prove. So I'm curious when when he's finally able to, well, now he can, I guess, once they make the official announcement, once he comes out and kind of publicly says his reasons, I'm curious to see, and then also to see how long he can keep playing at this level with
Yeah.
being what, 43 years old, or he'll be 43 when the season starts or something.
Yeah. And
It's crazy.
that's the other thing. Like, I think a lot of people look at it the way you're looking at it, like he's got nothing else to prove. But in his mind, like he's still an elite talent. So I'm sure in his mind, he still wants to win more Super Bowls, and he's just looking at New England's roster, and he doesn't think they have what it's going to take to do that. So
Right.
I think he thinks Tampa Bay is going to give him a better chance to win next year or the next 2 years or whatever. And I also think there is some truth to the notion that him and Bill Belichick are like fighting and want to prove to the world that they're the one that deserves the most credit.
They were the reason for the last 20
Exactly.
years. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think if he goes to like hypothetically, if Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay, wins a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay as like the quarterback of the host city, wins Super Bowl MVP in his first year out of New England, then
that makes him look suddenly he looks way better.
Exactly. Then suddenly the last 20 years looks like people who think like, oh, maybe it was like 50-50 credit between the two of them, or like 51-49. Suddenly those people look at that and they're like, okay, I guess it was more Brady, and suddenly it becomes like 60-40, 70-30 kind of split.
Right.
So
interesting. That's gonna be fun to see. It's gonna be fun next season if we're not all dead from the coronavirus by then, or we're still in quarantine and sports are all canceled. So hopefully
next season happens.
This doesn't normally happen, but there's a real scenario where the NBA playoffs could be happening at the same time as the start of the NFL season. So that could be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I've seen a couple tweets about that kind of stuff. Like there's a real scenario where like all of these sports that are getting canceled, like whenever things start back up, like literally every sport in the world is on at the exact same time for like a period of like 3 or 4 months.
So you're saying this is actually the calm before the storm, the superstorm of sports.
Yeah, right now we're quarantined because there are no sports. In a couple of months, we're going to self-quarantine because there'll be nothing to do except watch sports.
Nothing but sports. March Madness and the NBA Finals and NFL, it's all going to be happening.
That'd be crazy.
Speaking of the NBA, though, came out yesterday that there's 4 Nets players that have the coronavirus as well, and they haven't released the names apparently, but Kevin Durant came out and basically said that he was one of them. Yeah. So now, because of that, the last team they played was the Lakers, and now the Lakers are all getting tested. It's just crazy. It's crazy to think. And you've got Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, obviously, on the Jazz, and maybe this is for another day, but I have a conspiracy theory that Donovan Mitchell actually gave it to Rudy Gobert, not the other way around. So we'll talk about that another day.
Very interesting.
What are your thoughts on that, though?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I kind of want to look at like the scheduling of all these teams, because like when was the last time the Jazz played the Nets, or like, because I feel like if you put in enough effort and research, you could look at it and kind of track the path of it. If we're assuming that Rudy Gobert or Donovan Mitchell, if we want to go with your conspiracy theory, started it, we're like the patient zero in the NBA. I feel like we could track the virus's course through the NBA. So it'd be really interesting to see how that happened. And a thought I just had while you were talking was, I mean, Kevin Durant and LeBron James are pretty close. Like they work out together, and they're obviously tight. So I would be really interested to see. Like I didn't watch the game, but I'm sure at some point during the Nets Lakers game, they either like were close to each other, or like were talking to each other, or like dapped each other up, or like something. So it'll be interesting to see who on the Lakers has it now.
Right. It's crazy. Well, it's great. 2 things. It's crazy to think like just that these players that are just in like peak condition, they could have absolutely no idea. You know, they could have. Yeah. But like, if they hadn't realized that Rudy Gobert was sick last Thursday or Wednesday, whatever day that was Wednesday, I think. They could have played that game. I mean, he wasn't there anyways, but Donovan Mitchell had it. They could have easily played that game. He had 0 idea. He still hasn't had any symptoms, and it could have been spreading for a while. So that's pretty crazy to think about. Also, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Did you see what the New York City mayor said yesterday when the Nets were all getting tested? He came out and I can't remember if it was a tweet or public statement or what, but basically he was criticizing the NBA teams for testing their entire teams that they don't even know if they're like maybe sick, when there's people that are actually sick in hospitals that can't afford it. And so he's saying like these tests should be for people who are sick, not for people who are rich. What are your thoughts
That's a
on
good
that?
point. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, but I mean, it makes sense. Like I have a couple of friends who like are nurses and like work in hospitals, and I've seen them post things on Facebook that are kind of similar to that. Like basically, like these like there's a super limited number of test kits to go around, and like obviously we don't want to overwork the healthcare system. So a lot of people are saying like you should only like try to get tested, or you should only go into the ER if you have like severe symptoms, if like you have reason to be worried about yourself, because like the vast majority of cases are, I mean, you just feel like you have the flu, and like people like Donovan Mitchell, like they don't even realize that they're sick. So I mean, I feel like I think he has a good point. I think it'd make a lot more sense and be more responsible if the NBA were to say, all right, literally every single person that's employed within the NBA, you're under quarantine for the next 2 weeks. And like, if we catch you
Right.
not quarantining yourself, like
Can you
you
imagine
like a
quarantining that many people?
million dollar fine or whatever, like
Right.
something. But I mean, that makes a lot of sense because yeah, I mean, because we don't really gain anything from knowing Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell has it,
Right.
like other than just to feed into the panic of NBA fans. So
Right.
I mean, the effect would be the same if they were to just quarantine themselves or social distance or
Right.
do that. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
And yeah, I don't know. We shouldn't get into too much, maybe the politics, or I don't even know what the right word is, but the
Yeah,
the monetary debate. But there is something to be said that, like, if you have money, you also get, you shouldn't have to like give up certain things just because someone else doesn't or whatever. But that's
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 true.
another argument, and I don't really want to get into it. But
No, that's a good point though.
if they want to get it and they have money for it,
Yeah,
that's I think that's their prerogative. So it's just
yeah,
crazy. It's
that's
crazy
true.
times. We live in we're here in Utah, so we just had an earthquake this morning too, and the airport shut down. So it just is like the world's ending, sports are over. We can't even leave the
Yeah,
state, like all this stuff. So
yeah.
um
There's some stuff happening straight out of Revelations right now. It's crazy.
yes, which is why we are doing our March Sadness. So we told you guys a little bit about this yesterday, and we're going to have the links here below this video too. But we are really trying to get this to spread so that we can have some sports excitement, because talking about NBA players that are sick is not that's not peak excitement of
It's not
sports.
ideal.
So our March Sadness, if you guys weren't here yesterday or haven't heard yet, we're gonna be taking video submissions from anybody and everybody. It's gonna be a 64 team bracket type challenge where we're gonna pit your guys' like basketball sports related videos against each other and have fan voting. Christian and I will vote on them. We're gonna basically have a winner. Grand prize is $5,000. Okay, so that's super sweet. $4,000 to the person that has the winning video, and that $1,000 to whoever is the person that referred them. So, we want you guys to share this, and just know like there's absolutely incentive to share it. So send in your videos, and there's all the instructions are in the link down below for how to submit for it. But basically, it's any kind of like, if you look up like basketball vines on YouTube or whatever, we'll put a video here too that kind of shows you some
Yeah,
examples. But people doing trick shots, little kids doing funny things with a basketball, like college kids in their dorm room, anything like that, send it in, and we're gonna be having that as a grand prize. Also, I just noticed I got to show you guys something because this is pretty cool. We told you we love sports. I need you guys to see my wedding ring. Okay, literally, ball is life for me. So just know, like, ball is truly life. If you have a question or concern, the Moose and Papa T are going to know an answer to it.
heck yeah.
Christian has taken it one step further, and he's not even married because he loves basketball so much.
Ball is life. That is the
ball,
only reason
ball is actually his life. So, anyways, join March Sadness. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk about any new sports updates, anything like that. But it's been awesome, Christian. You have anything else you want to say?
No, just stay safe. Listen to what the CDC and the World Health Organization are telling us, and we'll get through this together, guys.
Yeah. The better we listen to them, the sooner this will all end, and we can get back to watching sports and back to the world that we are used
Heck
to.
yeah.
So, all right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.